It's the first mainstream film in Lithuania to feature a love story between two men. The lawyer tells the story of Marius, a corporate lawyer in Vilnius who spends his evenings dining with friends and having one-night stands. After his estranged father dies, he decides to go to Belgrade to meet a Syrian refugee who he met online. The film is showing as part of Paris's LGBTQI+ film festival, Chéri Chéri, and its director, Romas Zabarauskas, joins me here in the studio to talk about it. Romas, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
I do want to start talking about your film, but before we start, let's give our audience a quick peek at the film's trailer.
What about special group or help networks for LGBT refugees here in Belgrade?
There aren't any.
You can't get help from a lawyer when the only things that work aren't legal.
A gay refugee would need to meet the very stringent criteria of our program, just like any other refugee.
Look, he just needs to leave.
Stay with me. For what? Because you want your live show?
Don't say that!
Now, Romas, Marius, as we saw there, is an affluent lawyer for corporations. Ali is a bisexual Syrian man living in a refugee camp. What made you want to bring their two worlds together?
Oh, okay. Well, you know, this is the kind of life a little bit similar that I live in Lithuania. Yes, I am gay, and, you know, it's still a homophobic society, but I feel very privileged, too, because I have these cheerful gay friends and, you know, this cosmopolitan environment. And I wanted to delve into this theme of privilege because, yes, in one hand, you can be discriminated against, but you can still have your own privileges. And for me, it was interesting to have this contrast. And then Ali's character, too, is a little bit more nuanced, and we hear situations that are even more difficult than he is in the film.
Yeah, because Ali also rejects the idea that just because he's a Syrian refugee, he's necessarily a victim. I know did you speak to Syrian refugees for the making of this movie?
Yes, I went to Belgrade, I went to Kirnyacha camp there to speak with the refugees, and that's where we shot one of the scenes later on. And I spoke with some gay Syrian refugees via phone calls, like video calls. And I also went to Beirut, Lebanon, to meet the LGBT+ community there. It's a neighboring country, but I was interested to hear the experiences firsthand. And so, yeah, I really did quite a lot of research.
And what made you want to look at Syrian refugees? Because you were saying that you had a life in some ways much like Marius. For you, was there a sort of a moment where you recognized a certain privilege and decided to make this movie?
Well, yes, absolutely. And it goes even more personal because I actually lost my father. He died due to a heart attack 6 years ago, and that kind of changed my perspective on life. But one thing I realized quite quickly that I'm privileged in my own mourning as well, because, you know, I still have this support circle and this privilege, and people who are escaping war, they don't have that. So I was interested to delve into that. And also, you know, I'm interested what's happening in the world, and in the media, we often hear the most tragic stories. Refugees are portrayed as victims or heroes, but we can kind of become numb to it. And I was interested in connecting back to humanity, to empathy, because, you know, people make mistakes, people make bad decisions. So I wanted to show these two characters as very human.
Yeah, it feels very human and very personal. Your film came out in Lithuania last year in theaters. What was the reaction like there?
Well, listen, there were different reactions, but the lead actor is a beloved actor in Lithuania, Marius Zabarauskas, so he brought a wider audience to the movie as well, and I felt that overall reactions were very warm, actually. Despite the difficult subject, people find their ways to connect to the movie. And I think, you know, whatever people expect now hearing about this, it will be a little bit different, so I would really encourage to watch the movie.
No, I encourage people as well. I also saw it.
Oh, thank you.
No, you came out as gay at the premiere of your first short film. That was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
How much social acceptance was there at the time, and has it changed since then?
Well, that's the thing. When I came out, there were only a couple LGBT plus people out in Lithuania. So I became this gay celebrity overnight. And I gave interviews, what it means to be gay, and try to be positive. And now there is a lot more diversity, a lot more openness. Now it's not that special, the fact that I'm gay, but that's nice. I can focus on my films also and, show myself through my art.
And we saw in that report earlier, Hungary's recent anti-gay laws have really put European LGBT plus rights back in the spotlight. What was your reaction to seeing that law get passed there?
Well, listen, that's very tragic and very sad, and Hungary has multiple problems of, freedom of speech also, and media, and different problems, and Europe should take it very seriously. We should solidarize with human rights across the European Union, and we should do more than words.
Does it make you worried about seeing a rollback of LGBT plus rights elsewhere, like maybe in Lithuania?
Well, we don't have much space to roll back because first we need to get there and get that equality. So, but we have intense discussions in our society at the moment. It can be very painful, but I'm still an optimist, and I hope we'll power through it, and I hope we will recognize the diversity that our society has.
You mentioned that Lithuania doesn't have much far to go back. What is the current situation in Lithuania when it comes to LGBT rights?
Well, I see that it gets better and worse because in one way, for 30 years now that we are a free country, we still didn't ensure equality for our citizens. And that's very sad. We don't have a partnership law and healthcare for transgender people and other important laws. On the other hand, as I mentioned, our society is becoming more open, LGBT plus community more visible, and its supporters more vocal as well, and that's very positive. We had an openly gay parliament member elected last year, Tomas Vytautas Raskevičius. We got 2 votes short from making a first step towards passing partnership last month, but we will try again in autumn, and we will persist, and we'll have it done.
I want to go back to your film quickly. You also include a transgender character. Is masculinity another theme that you were wanting to explore?
Absolutely. That's so cool that you noticed it, that it links with theme of masculinity. Yes, I'm very interested because, after all, homophobia is really a form of sexism. And sexism is still very prevalent in all our societies. So by speaking about masculinity, I can connect it to this broader theme.
And you're a director, but you're also described as an activist. How do you see the relationship between the work that you do, the art that you do, and your activism?
Well, this is kind of complicated because I always felt that I did what I could in my situation to help to help things in Lithuania. I don't necessarily decide that I'm an activist, but if people see it that way, that's fine too. And with my films, I give myself full creative freedom, to do what I want in terms of artistically. And if they send a good message, that's good too. But it's not straight up educational.
All right, Romas, I'm sorry, that's all the time that we have, but thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your personal stories and the story of your film with us. That was Romas Zabarauskas. He is the director of the film The Lawyer, which will be presented tomorrow during the closing ceremony of Paris's LGBTQI plus film festival, Chérie, Chérie. Thank you all so much for watching. I encourage you to watch his film and to stay tuned to France 24. Much more news coming up.